Hi, it's time to talk about real estate investing again because I had so many questions and comments from the video I did, which I'll link in if you haven't seen it. This is on my main channel. Decided to take this to my second channel because it just shouldn't be on the main channel. eevBLAB 66, renting versus buying a commercial office space / lab. Because I have, as I said in that video, go watch it again, I won't rehash it, but basically I'm putting out I'm pretty much always looking around actually for a lab space to buy, and I already own one, the old 50 square meter lab, but I'm looking for a new lab space, and that doesn't mean I'm going to get one, but with another year left on my lease here, I'm trying to start thinking long term and potentially looking at maybe buying another space slightly bigger than my other one, more suitable for my needs than the old 50 square meters. But a lot of people raised various comments and questions on that and warning Will Robinsons and all sorts of stuff, so this will be a frequently asked questions FAQ about commercial and other general real estate and financial investing and stuff like this. So let's go through it pretty much point by point. First one is, Dave, you're crazy. Don't buy now. The market's going to implode. It's going to crash. We're in the biggest property bubble and financial and debt bubble in world history, and it's going to collapse. Hold on to your cash, sell and wait for the crash to happen, and then buy in at pennies on the dollar. Well, yeah, okay, I am actually kind of in agreement here. We are in one of the biggest, well, not, depends on how you look at it, but we are in one of the biggest debt and property bubbles in history, and something has got to give, okay? We've been going, it's one of the longest bull runs in history, and something is going to give, and thanks for the advice, but I do actually know this. We've actually had some pullback on the property market here in Australia. My own suburb here, Baulkham Hills, actually fell 18% in the last, 18 months or whatever. There's quite a few idiots still around, like paying top dollar for places here in my particular suburb, but they're paying for somebody else's renovation, and we'll get into that. They're buying these show homes because Australia is now obsessed with these reality TV shows where they make over houses and they flip them, and and people still pay ridiculous prices for that. Don't be one of those people. Anyway, so yes, I do believe that a correction is going to happen, and it's how you deal with it. I do realize this, and I have plans in place for this. So don't worry, I'll be fine. Trust me. But the takeaway from this is, if you have that sort of mindset, oh, like the, financial Armageddon's coming, I've got to stack my guns and my ammo and my silver dollars and get ready with my bug out bag for the next zombie apocalypse, then, okay, it might be fun, but you're not going to get anywhere in life or business with that sort of thinking, okay? It's not going to be that bad. It goes without saying, right? If that sort of stuff happens, then you've got worse things to worry about, really. Now, of course, this doesn't mean that I'm going to just go out and spend top dollar, or as I said, I just use this as an example. I wasn't necessarily going to go out and spend $8,000 a square meter or $640,000 on a new space. And this comes, I actually posted and pinned this one. So let's go through some property investing advice I put up here. The list is much longer than this. You could have a dozen more different items, but I just rattled 5 here. Don't pay for someone else's wanky renovation. As I said, people are still paying top dollar here in Sydney, even though the market has dropped. They're still paying top dollar for a fully renovated thing. They walk in, it looks magnificent. It's got all the hired furniture in it, and it's just, gotta have this, gotta have this. It's ridiculous. Don't pay for somebody else's renovation. In terms of commercial office space here, especially in my business park, as I said, very different to say Lewis Rossman's New York situation, where if I made it look any better, you couldn't afford it, right? Here, it's pretty much all A-grade office space in this business park, but I don't need A-grade office space. I'd be happy with B or even C-grade office space. If you don't know the different grades, A is like really schmick. You've got the concierge service in the foyer, you've got fountains, and you've got all sorts of, wankery, and it all looks fantastic, right? You've got everything but somebody handing you a towel in the bathroom, right? That's a thing in America. Like you go into a bathroom, there's somebody standing there handing you a towel and you're supposed to tip them. Weird. Anyway, right, A grade is like brand new commercial office space that's fitted out, you know, absolutely perfectly, and it's got all the bells and whistles, right? You know, it's got a cafe in the foyer, and it's got, you know, a gym on site, and it's got, you know, and everything you could possibly need, right? Really schmick stuff. I don't need something like that. B grade is like, meh, it's, you know, the building's like 10, 15 years old, and it's a little, you know, it's not up to current scratch and things like that. And that's a problem with commercial property, is that you have to revitalize the property. It depends on how bad it is. Might have had a tragic 80s color scheme, or, you know, 90s color scheme, or something like that. Might have, you know, really bad carpet, and, you know, like worn carpet and old lighting, and, or, you know, all that sort of stuff. So, you know, that could be like a B grade stuff, but it's still absolute luxury compared to ones Lewis is looking at in New York, for example. And then you've got C grade, which is, you know, worse again. It's all run down, you know, they haven't spent any money on it. The lifts are breaking down, and, you know, it's just, it's not that great. And the particular, like an inside, it hasn't been painted. Very rare. Like I've actually, I go looking at places over the last decade. I've been looking at places in this park continuously, even when I'm not buying. I just like to keep my hand in the market, which is another point down here, which we'll get to. And I can't recall ever having seen any sort of C grade. I can't really even say I've seen a genuine B grade place in this business park. And, you know, sure, if you go to one of the more industrial business parks, which is across the road here, it's a different business park, different feel. This one's got all corporate office towers and things like that, and I love the location here. That's why I want to stay here, and that's all I need. The other ones might have, you know, smash repairs places, you know, ones with the huge roller doors and the big, you know, 10-meter high ceilings and stuff like that. It'd be great for drop tests and things like that, but where they're basically, you know, like 80% warehouse, sort of, you know, 20% office space and stuff like that, and they're typically B grade type office spaces. They're not really A grade in a commercial corporate business tower like we get in this part, or in the particular business park that I'm in. And they're, of course, much cheaper. You know, you won't be paying your like $8,000 a square meter for something like that. They go for a lot less. And as I said, if I drive 15 minutes away to further out west here in Sydney, then I could get like easily like $3,000 a square meter, something like that, right? So you don't have to pay this sort of money to get a space, really. This business park ranges roughly from $8,000 to over $10,000 a square meter, depending on the size, depends on the quality. As I said, if it's got a real wanky fit out, then yeah, you're going to pay top dollar for that. And if it's in, you know, a brand new building or something like that, yeah, you might pay your $10,000 a square meter, but you don't have to. As I said, well, let's get to the other point, shall we? That comes to the second point. Know the local market intimately. I say before you buy a property like this, spend a year looking at, like, going to auctions, going to inspections, walking around buildings. I will just go to like buildings in this business park. I'll just walk into them and just walk floor to floor to see what's what, you know, keeping my ear to the ground by talking to real estate agents, walking the buildings. I know more about the buildings in this and the market in this corporate office park that I'm in than a lot of the commercial real estate agents do. They don't know stuff that I know. And if you do that, then you'll be in a position to know a bargain when you see one, and you want to be buying a bargain. Point number 3, wait it out for a bargain. Be prepared to like say no to somebody and walk away from a deal. You don't have to buy it, and never ever pay the advertised price. My old lab, for example, you know, nobody wanted that. It sat on the market for 12 months. I offered, I think, 12 or more % under the asking price for it, and they took it. No worries. I got it really cheap, a discount. So it's not like, yeah, okay, we may be in the biggest real estate bubble of all time, both commercial and residential, but you can always find these bargains. It's just a matter of time. I'm not going to rush out and pay top dollar for something and piss away my money. I'm not that stupid, and you shouldn't be either. And I mentioned point number 4, try and find a place that nobody else wants. You don't want to be bidding against other people. I wouldn't buy really something in an auction unless you have the fixed price, you know what you want to pay for it, it's what you really, really want. Okay, it's gone to auction. There's no, often you can, even if it's going to auction, you can offer a pre-auction bid, but often in a boom market where they're going to be doing the auctions instead of just the regular sale, then you really have to be offering top dollar there. And really, you don't want to be doing that. You don't want to be competing against other people. But if you have to compete, at least be first and get in and put an offer in first. And then once you do buy a place, either commercial or residential, whether it's investment or whether it's your own home, pay it off like crazy, because it's a way that most people suck at saving money. And putting your money into your home loan or your investment property loan can be a great way to save, especially here in Australia, where we have these redraw facilities and offset accounts, where it's basically a bank account, but which you can withdraw your money for any purpose at any time, except that it brings the principal value down that you have to repay, and you're avoiding all that compounded interest. The early years in paying off your loan are the most important. That's when all that compounded interest can really just shove all your cash into that. You won't get a better return guaranteed in any other market. So as I said, like, there's lots more tips than that. I won't, like the whole topic of risk and risk mitigation and things like that, wow. But yes, we are in a gigantic bubble, and it's eventually going to pop, okay? And it's going to come down, but it's not going to come down as much as you think. Because that leads me to my second frequently asked question, is that, Dave, sell your old lab now, because I own the old lab outright. Sell it now, and then once the crash happens, you'll be able to buy it back pennies on the dollar. Well, it's like, if you think that, you're an idiot, okay? Because you don't know anything about real estate, especially real estate here in Australia, or the commercial sector here. And it's not that, oh, it can't happen here and all that sort of stuff. Yes, the crash can happen and probably will happen, right? But you have risk mitigation things in place to make sure that you're not going to be in trouble. Now, the thing here, okay, with commercial property, and this is why you're wrong, is that you don't understand commercial property here in Sydney. And the reason is that the majority of commercial property is actually owned under self-managed super funds, okay, for people's retirement. We're in the top, I think, the top 5 in the world for many super fund retirement pensions, all that sort of stuff for the flexibility it offers. These self-managed super funds, they own property in that. You could halve, right? We could have a 50% market crash, which a lot of the pundits are saying I don't know if they're saying that in commercial, but they're saying that in residential, or 40, maybe even 50% correction coming for Sydney. And okay, even if that happens, these people who own these things in their self-managed super funds, they don't care, because they're still getting the rental income for those. Oh, but everyone will go out of business and it'll be Armageddon and I'll have to get my bug out bag. Yeah, right, whatever. Okay, go live in your fantasy land, okay? The world goes on, and most people will keep their jobs, and businesses, people still need small office spaces for their self-employed business and things like that, and they're happy to pay the rent because they didn't buy for whatever reason, and the world goes on, okay? And okay, you might think, oh, loan value ratio. Oh, no, the bank will repossess it, because if it halves, then the loan value ratio will mean that the banks will suddenly repossess your house, right? Or repossess your commercial property. Well, if that's the case, like 90%, the banks would have to repossess 80% plus or something of houses in Australia. It's just ridiculous to even think that, and even more ridiculous to think it's going to happen to commercial property. Because as I said, to get these commercial properties and put the commercial property up as collateral against the loan in a self-managed super fund, typically you're going to need a 40% deposit. So right there, off the bat, you could go buy a commercial property tomorrow, okay, right at the peak of the biggest boom in history. It drops 40%, but you've already paid your 40% deposit. Your loan value ratio's still fine. Nothing's going to happen. Chill. And the other thing about selling my lab that I own here, it's a ridiculous idea. It is the best location in this park. It'll always go for a premium. There'll be always something who wants to rent it, and I can use it myself and fall back. And if I sold the thing, I would want to buy back in the exact same building or one literally next door, because it is the best location in the park and a lifestyle from my home and everything else that, like, you're just silly. You've got to pay the stamp duty on buying a new property. Then I'm going to get hit with capital gains tax, right? Very substantial capital gains tax for selling the thing, right? And then you've got to rebuy it, and then you've got all the expenses involved in buying and selling a new place. And if you try and time the market, you're going to come a gutser. Almost guaranteed. Never, this should be point number 6 on property investing. Never try and time the market. So yeah, it's just a completely dumb idea to sell a lab which I bought at a bargain price and already own, and it's a fallback option. And no thanks. That'd be the dumbest move ever, both financially and for security as well for a business space. And that brings up the next frequently asked question: is Dave, just move back into the old lab and get rid of half your stuff and then just make do in the old thing, hoard your cash and invest in something else, or wait for the big crash to come? Well, that's not a bad option. I totally agree with that, and that's on the cards. As I said, I'm just putting the feelers out for buying a place. I may actually go back to the old lab. So in a year's time, you might see another lab move back to the old lab. And yeah, it'd be really hard in the 50 square meters, as I said, to do the packing and shipping, but there's various options there. I don't have to buy a new place to move into. I can go back to the old lab, and then at a pinch, you could do packing and shipping in there. I've done it before, but it's really ugly. Or I could simply rent a much smaller, cheaper place somewhere else, maybe outside of this business park, just a small space just to do packing and shipping, for example. So it's certainly a valid option. So yeah, that may certainly happen. I'm not totally set on buying a new place, just putting the feelers out. And the video I did was more like, oh, look, I'm always looking to buy a place, thinking about it. If a bargain comes along, I'd never buy it unless it's an absolute bargain. And I just went through the calculations and stuff like that because I thought some people might find it interesting. But no, that is certainly an option. I might move back into the old lab. No worries. But the thing about moving back into the old lab, while that's quite good from a cash flow point of view, because I own that place, and technically, you could argue that I'm not getting the $17,500 a year rent from it and stuff like that. But basically, it only cost me the $5,000 in outgoings, really, $5,000 a year. Basically out of my pocket. So from a cash flow point of view, it's a really good option to move back into the old lab. And that, as I said, that certainly may happen, but it's not the best move from an investment point of view. As I said, commercial real estate is actually quite a decent investment from an investment return point of view. And if I can get a larger lab that's better suited to my purposes and have that as an asset that I can put money into instead of paying rent, for example, which I'm currently doing at the moment here, then from a long-term investment point of view, it's a good option. But of course, only if you get a bargain and yeah, the market crash and yeah, the zombie apocalypse, yeah. A lot of people said, hey, why don't I move into my house? And I think I covered that in the last video. I'm sure I did. No, my house is not suitable. Trust me, both from a land size point of view, we've already expanded the house. I simply can't move into it. But then a lot of people, next frequently asked question, Dave, sell your house, move to a cheaper location, get a big place that you could, you build 100, 200 square meter lab out the back. Yeah, okay. In theory, that's great, except for the fact that, oh, I don't want to do that. Mrs. eevBLAB doesn't want to do that. The kids don't want to do that. They don't want to move all their friends and school and everything else. And Mrs. eevBLAB doesn't want to, change jobs and do whatever because she works as well. And it's a location. Like, no, we're not going to uproot our lifestyle and move somewhere else. And it's just ridiculous. Okay, if you're young and single, fine, go for it, or if you're married and once you've got kids and you're rooted in a particular location, that's pretty much it. We love it here. It's great. So no, we're not going to move. It's simply not an option. And from a financial point of view, no, we don't need to do it. Like we're comfortable at the moment. Everything's fine. Everything's going fine and dandy. And, if anything, yeah, I can move back to the old lab and, she'll be right. And the next frequently asked questions was, I can't believe the high prices in Australia. This is ridiculous. Move to Adelaide, move to Perth, move to Brisbane, move to America, move to, anywhere else but where I am. Well, look, as I said, I can go 15 minutes down the road and I can get for like 3,000 a square meter or even less. I can get a gigantic place for not much, but as I said, I don't want to drive every day. I'm sick of doing that. The reason I'm here is a lifestyle. I'd rather go back to my 50 square meter lab right here in the ideal best lifestyle location than to drive 15 minutes away to some big empty cold warehouse that I got at a bargain price. No. So yes, $8,000 to $10,000 a square meter might sound like a lot, and it is, but there's a huge grade of places, commercial offices here in Sydney, both, your corporate office towers like this, your mixed industrial type ones that have, as I said, 80% warehouse, 20% office space. There are ones which I quite like in the next business park. I considered one of those. In fact, I did a video many years ago before not sure. Yeah, no, I thought about, maybe selling that one or, getting one. I can't remember. I'll link it in if I can find it. Anyway, it was talking about moving to this space that had sort of like 80% office space and like 20% warehouse. It was like it had the garage door and everything. You could work on big gear in a messy sort of like concretey garage, and it was in a commercial estate is the word I'm looking for. And yeah, it wasn't bad, but once again, it's more inconvenient to get to. And yeah, no, it was just, and it was at the time, the big thing was the internet. Which one had the better internet connection? Here had the better internet connection, and I think that swayed it at the time. So yep, anyway, I probably shouldn't waffle on for too much longer about this sort of stuff. And as I said, there's tons more stuff to talk about. But yeah, if you got any questions, leave them down below, certainly. So yes, thanks everyone for your concern about the bubble wardings and stuff like that. But yep, don't worry. I've got it set. There's lots of things that, I haven't talked about my, diversified, things that I'm diversified into and stuff like that. And by the way, if you want a decent tip on that, you'd be buying gold right about now if you're worrying about the debt crisis and all that sort of jazz. But yeah, anyway, let us know. Have signs of the crash started in your country? I know some countries went down years ago, Greece and all that sort of jazz. But yeah, Cyprus and geez, let us know if you're from there. Geez, how's it doing? But not great, I've heard. Anyway, look, things are going to give here, but if you're sensible about these sort of things and you have plans and you have backup plans upon backup plans and you have diversified investments and you have diversified income sources, and you can survive pretty much anything but the literal zombie apocalypse. So yeah, I've worked my way into this position over, my entire working life. So like over the last 30 plus years, I've worked myself into this position where I'm not going to kamikaze. So don't worry about that. But yeah, as for buying a space, yeah, I'm not going to rush out and buy something. I'll just look around. So I'm actually hoping for like a real dump to come up, like that I can paint up and put new carpet in and everything else that nobody else wants and stuff like that. But it's got to be in a decent location, because yeah, I can just go back to the old lab, and you may see that happen. That could be the thing. So anyway, yeah, hope you found it interesting. If you did, give it a big thumbs up. Catch you next time.